Hi, thank you for participating in fiscal year 2024 Department of Education's Fulbright-Hays Group Projects Abroad Short-Term Technical Assistance webinar. I am Cory Neal, and I am the GPA Program Manager. As in the past few years, we will be having two separate workshops this year, one for the GPA short-term projects and a separate one for the GPA long-term projects. This technical assistance workshop will focus on the short-term projects only. Both webinars have been pre-recorded and can be accessed through the Department of Education's Group Projects Abroad website. The agenda for this webinar is as follows. We will discuss the purpose of the GPA short-term program. We'll review the competition highlights as referenced in the notice inviting applicants. We'll discuss the eligibility requirements for both the applicants and the participants. We'll review each of the short-term project types. We'll discuss each of the project phases for the short-term projects. We'll go over the allowable cost under the GPA program. We'll review the selection criteria and the process for selecting awardees, and we'll provide some helpful tips for developing a competitive application. The GPA short-term program is designed to promote, improve, and develop modern foreign languages and area studies throughout the educational structure of the United States. The program gives K-12 teachers, faculty, undergraduate and graduate students opportunities to conduct research and studies abroad in modern foreign languages and area studies. I've mentioned area studies twice now. That area studies, this is how we define that term. It is the study of the aspects of a society or societies, including the study of their geography, history, culture, economy, politics, international relations, or languages. For the fiscal year 2024 cycle, our estimated range of awards are anywhere between 50,000 and 180,000. Our estimated average size of awards is 132,474, and we estimate to make approximately 20 short-term awards. Please note that these are estimates and that the Department of Education is not bound by any estimates in this webinar or in the notice inviting applicants. So for fiscal year 2024, we have an absolute priority, and that priority is that a group project focuses on one or more of the following geographic regions of the world. Those would be Africa, Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific, the Western Hemisphere, Eastern and Central Europe and Eurasia, and the Near East. Please note that GPA short-term projects that focused on Western Europe will not be reviewed. Those Western European countries that are ineligible include Andorra, Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Malta, Monaco, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, San Marino, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. We'll talk a little bit more about eligible and ineligible countries in a future slide. Next, I'd like to cover applicant and participant eligibility requirements. Eligible applicants are institutions of higher education, state departments of education, private nonprofit educational organization, and a consortia of institution departments and organizations. So Group Projects Abroad is a grant opportunity for those groups, institutions, departments of ed, nonprofits. The Group Projects Abroad is not designed for individuals to apply for the grant. However, individuals can participate in a group project. So when an institution is designing their application and their proposal, please keep in mind that your participant makeup should be made up of people who are citizens, U.S. citizens, or permanent resident of the United States. And those individuals should also currently be employed full-time in a United States school system, an institution of higher education, or a local education or state education agency. Participants also should be one of the following: a teacher in an elementary school or secondary school, faculty member who teaches modern foreign languages or area studies. We can refer back to that definition in the previous slide on how we define area studies. An experienced education administrator responsible for planning, conducting, or supervising programs in modern foreign languages or area studies at the elementary, secondary, or post-secondary levels. A graduate student or junior or senior in an institution of higher education who is a prospective teacher in the areas of social sciences, humanities, and foreign languages. We also have opened that up this year, much like the past 2 years, to prospective teachers in STEM fields as well. And the students should meet the provisions set by his or her local and state educational agencies. Okay, if you have questions about your participant makeup, if you have more specific questions or something maybe that I didn't touch on, you can always reach out to me. I'll put my contact information at the end of this webinar. So there are 3 types of GPA short-term projects. There are short-term seminars, short-term curriculum development, and the short-term group research or study. And I'm going to go ahead and break those down now. So the seminar projects, these are at least 4 weeks in length and designed to promote the integration of international studies into the social sciences and or humanities curriculum throughout the U.S. school system at all levels. And I will add that we also do include STEM fields as well. They are designed to increase linguistic and or cultural competency among U.S. students and educators, and they focus on a particular aspect of area studies, such as the culture of the area or a portion of the culture of the country of study. The curriculum development projects are also a minimum of 4 weeks in length and allow for participants to acquire firsthand resource materials, including artifacts, books, documents, educational films, recordings, museum reproductions, and other instructional material for curriculum development in modern foreign languages and area studies for use and dissemination in the United States. So just because I receive this question every year, these curriculum development projects are for your participants to gather materials, create curriculum, and those curriculum are to be used in the United States, not necessarily in the host country. So in essence, you're sending educators overseas to gain firsthand knowledge and experience and then bring that back to their classrooms in the United States. And the last of the short-term project types is the group research. These projects are typically 3 months in length, and they're designed to give participants the opportunity to undertake research in a country outside the United States. Unlike the other 2 short-term project types, participants in a group research project must possess the language proficiency and disciplinary competence in their area of research. The grantee should conduct a language assessment pretest to determine a participant's language proficiency. So what we're looking for here is that your participants must be able to they must be competent in the language that they're conducting their research in the host country. Okay, so by the numbers, and this information here can be found in our application package, specifically on page 15 for seminars and 16 for curriculum development. But this will list out, as you see, we have a minimum of 4 weeks in the host country for both seminar and curriculum development. And With 4 weeks, we sort of have a sliding scale. So with 4 weeks, we have a minimum of 12 participants and the project director, so 13 individuals total traveling. And as the weeks increase, at the time spent in country increases, the participant number does decrease. So if you were to choose to spend 6 weeks in your host country, then your minimum participants would be 10, and 8 weeks would be 8 participants. When I see this, well, let me back up. So sometimes I'll see in an application that an institution has proposed to spend 4 weeks in country. Therefore, they should be including 12 participants and of course the project director. Now, sometimes I'll see that the applicant chooses 4 weeks and they'll put 12 individuals and a project director. And those individuals would be 11 participants, and the 12th individual may be a co-project director or a curriculum specialist or some other admin on the grant, and then the project director. That is not what we mean by 12 participants. We want 12 students, teachers, faculty who are participating in the group and the project director. If you wanted to include another admin on the grant, that is allowable, but they should not take a participant slot. If you have questions about that, again, you can always reach out and I'd be happy to clear things up. And I will discuss sort of how to approach including a second admin on the grant in a little bit, but I wanted to touch on that while I was thinking about it. The seminars and the curriculum development have a maximum grant award amount of $180,000. The group research, so these again are designed to undertake research in the country outside the US. The minimum here is 12 weeks in the country of study, and with 12 weeks, the minimum participant count would be 3. And of course the project director. Again, they need to be, your participants must be proficient in the language to be studied and must be competent in the discipline that they will be conducting their research in. The maximum grant award here is also $180,000. That information on, let me go back here, the information here on group research, this can be found in the application handbook or the application package as well on page 17. Okay, so here are our host countries that currently are closed to Fulbrighters. We highly encourage each applicant to check the State Department's website for alerts and warnings as GPA applicants proposing to travel to a country that is closed to Fulbrighters will be disqualified. The countries on this slide are the current countries that are closed. If you're unsure about a specific country or you just want to double check, please feel free to email me. As a reminder, we receive inquiries about Cuba and Egypt as possible destination for GPA projects, and these countries are currently closed to Fulbright-Hays group projects abroad proposals. Okay, for short-term, grantees have 18 months to carry out all of their project activities. The proposed start and end dates for fiscal year 2024 applications should be June 17th, 2024 to December 17th, 2025, or 18 months from the date of your award. So that's kind of the estimated. Hopefully we'll have awards made by June 1st, and therefore or at least by June 17th, excuse me. Therefore, that would be your 18-month grant cycle. Of course, if we make awards sooner or later, it would be 18 months from the time an institution is awarded the grant. All right, let's discuss the project phases since you have the 18 months to carry them all out. There are 3 phases: the pre-departure phase, the overseas phase, and the follow-up or post-travel phase. So in the pre-departure phase, you should allot at minimum 16 hours towards preparation. So that includes a pre-departure orientation, lectures on the country of study, reading materials for your participants, guidelines on what you expect, guidelines if you are proposing a curriculum development project, guidelines on what to expect from that project, discussions on daily living, traveling in the host country, maybe even a Title IX presentation from your institution, team building. This is key. I strongly advise a solid team building portion of your pre-departure orientation, as your participants will be living with each other for at least 4 weeks. So the stronger that group dynamic, the stronger your program. Language training is key here, and I'll touch a little bit more on language training in the pre-departure portion a little bit later. So yes, 16 hours minimum. Of course, you can go over that 16 hours. You can also design this to be in person or virtual, or a combination of both. Either is acceptable. Here's just an example of a pre-departure orientation. I also have another example that I can share if you were to contact me. I'd be happy to give you another example just so you can see how previous successful proposals have designed their pre-departure orientation. The second part's arguably the most important. That is the overseas phase. This is the bulk of your program. This is where we are looking for detailed information on your daily in-country itinerary, details about academic lectures, any language study if applicable to your program, field trips, cultural activities, debriefings, evaluations, travel arrangements, accommodations. The more information you provide in your project narrative regarding this overseas phase, of course, the more likely you are to receive a respectable score. I will also mention that in your overseas portion, you should build into your daily itineraries some downtime for your program participants to reflect upon the day's activities, or time to kind of have either self-reflection or group discussion, so that the information that your participants have soaked up during that day can be digested. This is key, and peer reviewers always mention that this is crucial to a successful project. So I want to throw that tip out there while I thought of it. Here's an example of an in-country itinerary. Again, I have another example of this. If you would like to see it, please let me know. I'm happy to share. And you just see, each day we've got the activities of the day and the rationale of why those activities are being conducted that day. And for this example, they've tied them to specific objectives, which is not a bad idea at all to do in your in-country itinerary design. The last phase here is the post-travel or the follow-up phase. So you should include here an end of seminar evaluation to be completed by each participant to assess the quality of your overseas project. We do review each evaluation submitted by participants to ascertain the success of the project and provide suggestions for improvement should a grantee submit a future application for funding. We also are looking here for what workshops or conferences or other kind of staff development or participant development that you aim to do post-travel. We do want to see your curriculum projects, if applicable to your design, and obviously the research that has been conducted. If you choose a group research project, that will be shared with the department as well, and any other kind of future outreach activities. You can also include here, and I highly recommend it, how you will arrange any follow-up visit to the local area from host country educators to serve as guest lecturers during the summer. You can include here any sort of media or publications that, well, I guess that you anticipate, whether that's, something at your institution, in your institution's newspaper or anything like that, but anything that you can show here on how you effectively can disseminate any of the information that you have gathered during your project. Here's a sample follow-up phase chart that you can include in your application. I do highly recommend including these itineraries, whether they're the pre-departure, the in-country, or the follow-up, as part of your appendices in your application. Okay, let's talk money. So the group projects abroad, the money that is awarded for a Fulbright-Hays group projects abroad is to be spent overseas only. We do not provide funds for any U.S.-based costs. This includes U.S.-based salaries. We don't cover costs for U.S.-based pre-departure orientation or the follow-up activities. So all GPA grant money must be spent in the host country. So we do cover lodging and meals, round-trip international travel. All international travel to and from the U.S. must be Fly America Act compliant. We do cover travel within the host country, educational materials purchased in the host country, meeting space within the host country administrative fees and services, host country evaluators, honoraria for guest lecturers, these sorts of things. But again, I can't stress enough, we do not cover U.S. base cost. I do see I see it every year, I'll be honest. Applicants who ask for GPA funds to cover passport or visa cost, we do not cover that. That is a US-based cost, so please do not include that in your application. We also don't cover any vaccines that participants will require before traveling to the host country. That's also a US-based cost. So just throwing that out there so that you do not include it, because it will not be funded or covered by your funding if you were to be awarded. Okay, selection criteria. This is our rubric here for scoring your application. We've got 8 criteria with varying amounts of points allotted to them. We also include 9 additional points by addressing the competitive preference priorities specific to short-term projects, which I'll touch on later. Your project narrative should be 40 pages maximum. I highly recommend using all 40 pages. I've seen it many times where an applicant will have not included as many details as they should have or explanation as they should have in their application package, and their narrative was 38 pages. So they, use those 2 additional pages to, add the necessary amount of detail and explanation. So, use those full 40. I cannot preach that enough. Use all 40 pages and jam pack those 40 pages with as many details as possible. Reviewers can't read your mind, so you need to lay it all out there for them. Okay, let's go over the selection criteria one by one here. The first is the plan of operation, which is worth 20 points. Here, this is where you should address how you should introduce the reader to the institution or organization. You should provide stats and other demographic information that's relative to your project. You need to show the need for your project, the selection of your country of study, and the objectives of the project. This should all be discussed in detail. The project design should be addressed. This generally includes those 3 project phases we discussed just a minute ago. And you should note how each phase of this project is to be carried out and supported under the plan of operation criteria. You should also address how the management plan will link all of the project phases and how it will effectively operate under all the project parties. Applicants should describe in which ways in which resources and personnel will be used in achieving the objectives of the project, and include details of which key personnel will be responsible for vital project components and activities, and describe the how, why, when, and where project activities will take place. It's important to link any project activities to the larger picture. Please include a clear description of how projects will provide equal access and equipment for project participants, regardless of race, color, national origin, gender, age, or disability. Many applicants neglect to include this description, which does result in a point deduction. In essence, every item that is listed in the notice inviting applicants for plan of operation should be addressed. Don't skip any one bullet point, so to speak, and that goes for any of the criteria. The second criteria is the quality of key personnel. This is worth 10 points. Applicants should address the qualifications of the U.S. project director, which includes their academic training, their field of expertise in the host country, the administrative experience, any languages, and other related qualifications. It is very important here to note the project director's time commitment to the project. That's oftentimes left out, and again, that results in point deduction. Please provide expertise of any other support staff as well as their time commitment to the project. You should also provide host country key personnel qualifications. These include administrative staff, language teachers, evaluators, assessors, any of these additional host country key personnel should include their titles, their project responsibilities, and their time commitments to the project as well. Okay. You also, in this section, you should also show, as part of your institution's non-discriminatory employment practices, how employment from underrepresented groups will be without regard to race, color, national origin, gender, age, or disability. In the appendices section, or the other attachments, I believe it's called in grants.gov, the applicant should upload abbreviated CVs, which should be no more than 3 pages for each key personnel. So, moving on to budget and cost effectiveness. 10 points here. You should demonstrate and justify that all allowable expenses presented are adequate and reasonable in today's market and necessary to accomplish the project's goals. Applicants should discuss project cost effectiveness and show the relationship between the project's cost and the project's objectives. We do not require matching funds for the GPA program, but we highly recommend using either institutional cost share or participant cost share. In the budget narrative attachment, you should upload a detailed itemized line item budget and an accompanying budget narrative that clearly outlines how costs have been calculated and how they are necessary to the objectives. Again, I highly recommend both the line item budget and the budget narrative rather than one or the other. This allows for just more clarity for your readers. Remember, short-term projects have an 18-month project period, so your budget should reflect those 18 months. Here's an example of a budget sheet, the line item budget that I mentioned, and I like this style because it has sort of what I like to call the 3-column approach, clearly outlining what costs are covered by the Group Projects Abroad grant, what costs are covered by institutional cost share, and what costs are covered by participant cost share, if applicable. Okay, the evaluation plan. Pay attention to evaluation plan. I've noticed the past few years that one of the biggest factors that separates applications that earn funding and those that do not really boils down to this criteria. The plan of operation is the other criteria that's worth 20 points, but as much attention to detail should be paid to the evaluation plan, as it's the only other criteria that's worth 20 points. A well-designed evaluation plan includes clearly articulated goals, measurable objectives, both quantitative and qualitative, a way to collect data to show progress, formal evaluations at each phase of the project, and informal evaluations, which can take the form of midpoint debriefings or daily journals. It's actually not a bad idea to include the daily journaling because, again, it's a way at the end of the day to add some of that self-reflection or digestion time in for your participants. Let's see. We do highly encourage using an external evaluator that's independent of your project. So someone who's outside of your academic department or even external to your institution should be included. It adds a lot of credibility to your evaluation plan. You should also include evaluation instruments that will be used to collect data during all project phases, and a timetable should be included to highlight when key components of the evaluation plan will occur. Okay. Applicants will be required to develop the proposed goals and project-specific performance measures and activities on the performance measure form, or PMF. The project goal statement on this sample PMF, for example, is to increase the number of instructional modules that could be integrated into, the project goal statement is to increase the quality and relevancy of less commonly taught language materials. The performance measure to support this goal is to increase the number of instructional modules that could be integrated into existing curriculum. And an activity highlighted here is to identify and propose at the pre-departure orientation 2 to 3 instructional modules to be developed during the group abroad period. So this is just an example, but these are required as part of your application. Should an applicant become a grantee, they'll be required to provide the data indicators and baseline numbers to include trend data similar to what we have on this slide. For more detailed information regarding evaluation plans, please review the application instructions. They are included in that application package. Okay, moving on to the next criteria. This is the adequacy of resources criteria. This is worth 5 points. Here you want to ask yourself, in essence, what resources will be used to accomplish the project goals that are outlined in the project, both in the US and abroad. You should indicate specifics regarding the use of facilities, both in the US and in the host country, supplies and other resources to show that they are adequate to carry out all activities in all phases of the project. And here in the other attachments or appendices section, you should upload letters of support from both the United States, so from your institution, or from, or I should say, and from your host country institution or individuals there. Okay, your potential impact, this is worth 15 points. Here, applicants should focus on the potential impact of the project on the development and improvement of the study of modern foreign languages and area studies on participating institutions of higher ed, public and private schools. You should describe the long-term benefits to the project participants, their students, any colleagues and communities resulting from successful completion of the GPA grant. You should indicate here the process by which resulting curriculum project research will be evaluated for accuracy and effectiveness, of course, if applicable. The next criteria is the relevance to the institutional development. This is worth 10 points. Here you should discuss the missions, goals, and objectives of your institution, as well as what it would mean to have a GPA grant. Okay, the last criteria is the need for overseas experience. This is worth 10 points. Here you should discuss how the project will bring about a better understanding of the host country. And you should be answering the question, why are you proposing to take this particular group of people to this particular place? And lastly, you should describe the relationship to the project and the institutional's program development in modern foreign languages and area studies. Okay, so in your appendices, again, I think it's called other attachments. It's either called other attachments or appendices, but it is a section in grants.gov, and this is where you can include, and you should include, all of the items listed on this screen. If you were to not include every item here, it could negatively affect your proposal. So that's why I highly recommend including your pre-departure orientation agenda, your overseas itinerary, your list of follow-up activities, the CVs of all key personnel, both domestic and abroad, letters of support, both domestic and abroad, examples of evaluation materials, project timeline, your PMFs with those proposed measures and activities. Again, I can't stress, I recommend including all of these optional items as they contribute to the strength of your application. All right, let's dive into the competitive preference priorities for 2024. There is a typo on the screen. GPA short-term applicants can earn 9 additional points if they address the following competitive priorities. So a perfect score for a fiscal year 2024 application would be a 109. 100 points for the criteria total and 9 points for the competitive preference priorities. The first of which is CPP 1, which awards 3 points to short-term projects from selected institutions and organizations. And those selected institutions and organizations include minority serving institutions, community colleges, new applicants, and state educational agencies. If you do not know if your school or your institution is a new applicant, please just let me know and I'll be happy to get that answer for you. I can also answer whether or not your school would qualify as a minority serving institution if you have any question about that. And I want to add here as well that any competitive preference priority that you anticipate applying for should be included in your project narrative and your abstract. So you should specifically state, for example, if you are a community college, you should specifically state in that abstract and in that narrative that you satisfy competitive preference priority 1 as your institution is a community college. If you don't include it in your abstract or your narrative, then you will not be eligible for those points. We do not just automatically award them to you. You must include them in your narrative. Okay. Okay, the next competitive preference priority actually skips to CPP 3. That's because CPP 2 is for long-term projects, which will be touched on in the technical assistance webinar for GPA long-term. For short-term, however, we skip to CPP 3. And this is for projects that provide substantive training and thematic focus on any modern foreign languages except French, German, and Spanish. We do have a minimum amount of hours that must be devoted to your thematic focus on priority languages for short-term projects, and that is 20 hours. Now, going back to something that I mentioned during the pre-departure orientation portion of this webinar, I would highly recommend, if you do choose to include a foreign language as part of your project, that you use your pre-departure orientation as time to teach your participants that foreign language, whether that's conversational language that would benefit them if they don't have any prior education on that language. But you can include X amount of hours in your pre-departure orientation and X amount of hours overseas, as long as you satisfy the 20-hour minimum. But I do see that a lot of times applicants will include language training as part of their pre-departure orientation, and I do think that that is a smart use of time. So just a helpful tip. The next priority is CPP4. This is the inclusion of K through 12 educators. So applications that propose short-term projects abroad that develop and improve foreign language studies, area studies, or both at elementary and secondary schools by including K through 12 teachers or K through 12 administrators as at least 50% of the project participants. I need to make something clear here. This is for participants who are currently K through 12 teachers or administrators. This is not for students, undergraduate or graduate students who are not full-time K through 12 or teachers or administrators who are just still in school learning, studying to become a teacher. They must be a teacher, a K through 12 teacher at the time of the program. So please just know that, because if you were to include, for example, you had 12 participants, you include 6 college faculty and 4 K through 12 teachers and 2 pre-service teachers, that is not going to satisfy this CPP. You would need to have at least 6 current K through 12 teachers or administrators as your participants in that example. Okay, if you have a question about this, please ask, and I'll be happy to clear up any concerns. And our last competitive preference priority for this year is the thematic focus on academic fields. So applications that propose short-term projects abroad in modern foreign languages and area studies with an academic focus on any of the following academic fields. I'm not going to read them all, but there they are right here on this slide. What I will say, though, is that this is a thematic focus of your entire project. So, for example, if your project is a project that focuses on public health in Mozambique, then your overarching theme of your entire project must be on public health in order to satisfy this priority. If you are including as part of your 4-week program, 2 days on public health in Mozambique, that is not going to satisfy this priority. It must be an overarching theme on one of those academic fields listed for your entire project. Again, if you have questions, let me know. All right, let's see. Some tips on putting together a successful application package. For those of you who applied last year, you may notice that one of the competitive preference priorities is no longer there. This year, again, we have 9 total points and just priorities 1, 3, 4, and 5 for short-term applications. Okay, so moving on to the tips. Get organized, and honestly, these applications are large, so the more organized you are, the better. I would take a peek at the abstracts of funded grantees and past successful proposals on the GPA website. All the 2023 abstracts are up there. Of course, 2022, 21, 20, and so on are there as well. But I would take a peek at the more recent proposals, as those will be most aligned with the requirements that we currently have for fiscal year 2024. We highly encourage you to develop internal and external linkages that'll assist you in putting together an application. So you might want to meet with relevant staff from your grants and contracts or business office, coordinate with colleagues on campus that have international education grants experience. You'll want to secure an external evaluator. Take a peek at our frequently asked questions on our website. They have been updated. Designate a management team with international and grants experience. Identify your department's needs and wants. And of course, you want to begin requesting letters of support, both from the United States and abroad. We recommend you review the Federal Register notice and the GPA website for updated information. Everything has been updated. As I said before, contact me. You can contact me, and it'll be listed at the end, but you can contact me at gpa@ed.gov, and I'm happy to assist and answer any questions you have. This may seem silly, but as I said before, address all selection criteria. Every aspect of that criteria should be touched upon in that narrative. And I would do it in the order that is listed in the application package. Don't make reviewers search for the information. So I would start from the top: plan of operation, quality of key personnel, budget, cost effectiveness, so on and so forth. Provide a detailed plan of operation and evaluation. Again, those are the two criteria that carry the most weight. Include enough details so that someone unfamiliar with your project could conduct it. Write clear, measurable goals, objectives, and outcomes. Provide a specific and detailed budget. Include both that line item budget and that budget narrative. Try to avoid grammatical errors and specific professional jargon or acronyms, and be persuasive. I truly can't stress enough how important it is to be clear, concise, and most importantly, detailed. I would be sure when submitting your application that you register early on grants.gov to avoid any system issues. Save your written proposal to avoid any computer issues. And if your institution is not funded, consult the reviewer comments that will be shared with you and reapply. You can always also speak with me if you have any questions about that as well. Do not wait to the last minute. Please don't wait to the last minute to submit. I cannot take any applications that are late. The deadline for your application is March 18th, 2024 at 12 o'clock on the dot, midnight Eastern Standard Time. If you need to, for some reason, you need to submit a paper version of your application, please consult the application package for instructions on how to do that. All applicants, regardless of your funding status, will be notified of your results no later than September 30th, 2024. Again, I attempt to get these applications scored and the letters sent out before June 1st, but things happen. So that is the absolute latest that you will be notified. Scores and comments will be sent to everyone, all applicants, via email. And for those of you who are successful applicants, be prepared to hit the ground running. There's a couple websites here that should be helpful to you as you work on your applications. There's sample abstracts, sample narratives, submission instructions, and a link to our newsletter. In fact, I believe our newsletter is being revamped. So if you are interested in joining that newsletter, please send me an email so that I can get you on the correct listserv. Also, I would like to share that if you reach out to me, I have samples, like I mentioned before, sample timelines, sample itineraries. I do have one sample short-term narrative from a previously funded successful project. And I do think that that is a really, really great resource, especially as it serves as a wonderful example of the structure, the organization, and the attention to detail that reviewers are looking for. So if you're interested in receiving any of those, please let me know. Here is the GPA program website, and that is my contact information, my name, and the GPA email. As I've mentioned a million times during this webinar, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And I do want to note that institutions are eligible to apply for more than one GPA grant. So you can submit multiple short-term projects, multiple long-term projects, or a combination of short-term and long-term. If you do choose to submit a long-term project, be sure to watch the long-term technical assistance webinar, as long-term applications do have different requirements than short-term applications. You can find the long-term webinar at the International Foreign Language Education's YouTube channel. Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this short-term GPA technical assistance webinar. I hope it will assist you in putting together a competitive application. I wish you the best of luck, and I look forward to reading your application. Thank you.